Now, please let us start a session by Asian Development Bank and Asian Development Bank Institute, City Management for Achieving Carbon Neutrality. I will introduce the MC for this session, Ms. Joy Plessia-Cheney, Knowledge and Capacity Development Economist, Asian Development Bank Institute.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our distinguished speakers, guests, and our participants. So welcome to this session on city management towards achieving carbon neutrality. This session will be about cities dealing with climate change and how to integrate decarbonization efforts into city planning and city management. Climate change is disrupting our everyday lives, so cities need to figure out how to balance economic development with social needs, while also maintaining quality and sustainable environment. At the same time, there's the digitalization, which is also transforming our products and services, and also affects how cities deliver their services. Therefore, city planning also needs to evolve to be more connected and responsive to the communities. So these issues, our speakers will talk about this in their presentations, and after that, in the panel discussion. This will be followed by a half-hour question and answer portion to give all of you a chance to raise your questions to our speakers. So to start our panel, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Satoshi Ishii, Director of Strategy and Partnership at the Asian Development Bank, and currently he manages the bank's portfolio on water and urban development. Mr. Ishii?
Thank you, Joy. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much for coming and joining this session. So once again, I welcome to this ADBI session. This session will focus on how cities are managing the concerted effort by public, private, and other stakeholders towards reducing carbon footprints in our cities, eventually to achieve carbon neutrality. I'm not going to give a big keynote speeches, but I just would like to open remarks, and then I'd like to set the scene for the panel discussion, where we have a lot of experienced, distinguished panelists, which I'm really looking forward to hear the story about. Just to set the scene, I think we are all in agreement that the impact of climate change is all around us. We see changes in the weather, where the summer are getting hotter and winters are increasingly getting colder. Coastlines are also getting slimmer, and seawater is encroaching upon the lands where our homes and livelihoods are built on. Our properties are more prone to disaster. Related damage is more and more. Populations are in need of relocation, while increased measures are needed to safeguard our homes, the roads, the water that we drink, and to ensure that our lives continue in good health, no matter where we live and come from. Adaptive measures are even more needed because we know that we cannot undo the damage already done, but we can make effort to slow down the pace of its impact felt by the Earth that is warmer by almost 2 degrees Celsius to make our lives withstand it. To give our standard statistics, what you have been hearing for this morning, by the Mr. Matsuzawa and also our colleague from the World Bank, more than 55% of their global populations are living in cities that account for 2% of the land surface. Economic activities is also concentrated in cities, with more than 80% of GDPs generated from cities. It is no surprise that the cities generate more than 70% of global carbon emission and consume more than 70% of the material resources. Of these, Asian Pacific region account for more than half of global carbon emission. And the region is almost and most disaster affected globally, with more than 40% of disasters happening in this region, with 84% of people affected. While these statistics portray a grim future, we can turn around this crisis into an unprecedented opportunity. That's what we all working for. Using interventions that are already available and creating new ones, our city can be creative in adapting a low carbon and resilient measures that can also generate economic benefits and opportunities. Contrary to conventional understanding, low carbon and resilient recovery does not demand economic compromise, nor does it require additional upfront cost. And positive benefit will far outweigh the total investment over the entire life cycle. However, to achieve this, our cities need to engage a lot more creativity in problem solving. They include a smart mix of innovative technologies, right use of mixed public and private financial resources, and new and collaborative ways of getting things done. We may also need to look into the areas for policy reforms, governance restructuring, and raising institutional capacity to facilitate this change. This is where the art of city management comes into play, and to orchestrate this irreversible shift towards carbon neutral future to partner with different actors. Again, I'm very excited to moderate this session, 1.5 hours with you, and I really appreciate everyone's active participation in the discussion. Thank you very much. So now, next, I'd like to invite the panel speakers to the podium. I noticed that once we invite a panel speaker on a podium, then they cannot see the screen. Shall I invite one by one, or sorry, I should have thought about this. How do you want? One by one is better. Sorry, so maybe I will calling for one by one, because then everyone can see your slides, right? So maybe first is George. Yes. Sorry about this. Yeah. Okay, so this session we are going to hear from our cities and the city leaders, and then also practitioners who are making concerted effort towards this shift. I'm very excited to listen experience from everyone. So I'd like to first welcome the George Evanoise to present Trebishi's carbon neutral strategy achievements. Mr. Evanoise is the project coordinator for ADB Finance Project in the Trebishi Development Fund. Floor is yours. Thank you.
Good, perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm George from Georgia. the country of Georgia. This is a small country located in the Caucasus region, having Russia on the north and Turkey on the south. We are post-Soviet developing country with a post-Soviet legacy, having a lot of challenges. But yeah, while our achievements might be the history for developed countries, it might be a good example for developing countries like us. Let's move to the next slide. Carbon dioxide emissions reduction. The process involves various key players like central government, private sector, and big cities. And there is no big manufacturing in our city, and I'm representative of city of Tbilisi. I will focus mainly on the Tbilisi activities. In 2010, Tbilisi became a signatory of the EU's Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, committing to reduce CO2 reduction by 20% by end of 2020. In 2021, the Covenant of Mayors Europe renewed its target to reduce CO2 emissions by 35% by end of 2030. To meet these obligations, Tbilisi City Hall has to develop a sustainable strategy, action plan, and the main document of inventory document, baseline emissions inventory document. And this stage, I think most challenging is collecting data for baseline information, but the process is ongoing, and in the end of this year we would have that inventory, and in the end of next year we would have strategy and the action plan. Reducing CO2 pollutants, we are focused on around 4 key areas. That is transport, waste management, reduction of energy consumptions, and compensating measures like trees as an offset carbon emission. So the biggest pollutant in our city is the transport. To solve this problem, in recent years we have developed 2 important documents. The first document is a city master plan, and the second document is a sustainable urban mobility plan. We call it shortly SAMP. These 2 documents say that city should be compact. The spreading of the population is not allowed. We should avoid suburbanization. And the second document, mobility plan, says that somehow we have to enhance private car owners to move to the public transport, and in the long term, these actions for sure will make reduction of CO emissions. We have already identified the main corridors. We have already made bus lines. We have already renewed the old bus fleet to the new Euro 5 and Euro 6 standard buses. And yeah, we are trying to persuade the drivers, the population, to move from the private cars to the public transport. As well, several projects are ongoing on metro stations. We are rehabilitating it and making it more accessible and more usable. As well, Tbilisi City is running a project everyone who wants to have the electric charger for their electric cars, it would be provided for free in front of their doors. Central government have banned the import of old cars, and custom duties on electric cars is reduced. The second pollutant is the second focused area is the waste management. Recently, we have organized a new landfill, and right now we have negotiations with international organizations to organize gas collector on the landfill. We are investing as well on wastewater treatment stations. Reducing of energy consumption, that is our third priority. In the beginning of 2023, we received new legislation. According to legislation, if you want to get construction permit, you are obliged to use energo-efficient materials. The biggest consumer of energy in our city is street lighting. We have already managed to switch from old sodium lightings to new LED lighting systems on the main streets, and the secondary streets are online. The next area we are focusing is compensating measures. To offset carbon emissions, we are planning new forests and creating new parks. Last year, we managed to rehabilitate or create 13 new parks with total territory of 18 hectares. And we managed to plant new trees, new forests in 82 hectares of surrounding territory of Tbilisi. I want to say the special thanks to ADB as a co-organizer of this conference for the financial and institutional support dedicated to sustainable urban development in Tbilisi, and for the projects which will lead reduction of CO2 emissions. The list of recent projects are on the screen. I think I'm almost running out my time, and I want to say thank you, and I'm open for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please sit there. Yes. Thank you very much, George. ADB is very happy to work with Georgian government and then also Tbilisi. We have been discussing with them on the regional and town planning using the GIS and so on. So I think it is going to be further developed in collaboration with us. So now we'd like to move on to our next speaker from the state and city of Penang in Malaysia. Honorable Zairil Johari, State Minister and Penang State Executive Councillor of Infrastructure. Penang is also making efforts to increase the city's creditworthiness to attract private sector's investment and become more active partners in building Penang, a more climate resilient city. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Satoshi, and thank you for having me here. Very good morning to everyone. My name is Zairil. I'm from the small island state of Penang in Malaysia, and today I will be talking about the small steps that we are taking towards carbon neutrality and eventually decarbonization. So this is Penang at a glance. We are an economy powered by tourism and services, as well as manufacturing. And what you see here in this picture is Georgetown, our capital. It is also a UNESCO World Heritage City. And in the middle of Penang Island, we have a small mountain range called Penang Hill, which is also listed as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Now, of course, we are very proud of our UNESCO listing. However, it does also present restrictions in terms of our built environment as well as our natural environment in terms of what we can develop and where we can develop. So land scarcity, as you can imagine, is a challenge that we face in Penang, as well as climate change. Being an island state, we are very vulnerable to climate change. We have seen in the last few decades a rise in average surface temperature, as well as an increase in frequency of extreme weather events, resulting in flash flooding and so on. So we recognize that energy as a sector is a huge contributor of greenhouse gas. And so we set up recently an RE and EE task force, which I chair in Penang, with the objective to draft a policy agenda for the state of Penang in terms of renewables and energy efficiency. However, there are also some limitations as to what we can do, because energy as a portfolio is actually under the jurisdiction of the federal government. However, what the state does have control over are setting guidelines for development planning, for land use, as well as building design. So we know that buildings are huge consumers of electricity, and so basically one of our goals is to ensure that all new developments, new buildings built of a certain size and above in the future will be all green building compliant. Another interesting project that we have been working on, that we are currently working on, is the development of Silicon Island. Silicon Island is a new island to be reclaimed, that is actually being reclaimed right now, to the south of Penang. It will be 2,300 acres, and it will be, because we're designing it from scratch, we're designing it to be fully ESG compliant. Of course, this is much easier when you have a greenfield project compared to, for example, here in Minato Mirai, where it was a brownfield redevelopment, which is much more challenging. And so Silicon Island is designed to be climate resilient. It will be 3 meters above sea level to account for future rise in sea levels. It will have eco shorelines. It is essentially an extension of our current industrial area, but we are designing the industrial area in Silicon Island to be fully renewable energy powered. Of course, it will also feature TOD, transit-oriented development, as well, and we're ensuring that 20% of the entire island is reserved for green-blue features, such as parks, water canals, floodplains, mangroves, and so on. Transportation, we know, is also a huge consumer of energy, especially fossil fuels, also an emitter of carbon. And so in Penang, we try to get people to move away from private vehicles, not so easy. And what we introduced about 2 years ago, and we still continue today, is a free monthly bus program. So if you're a regular bus commuter in Penang, the state government fully subsidizes your travel every single day. Other projects that we're working on, which is also moving away from the conventional combustion vehicles, more sustainable alternative transport, such as the LRT, the Light Rail Transit project, which we are currently working with the federal government, as well as the cable car and water taxis, taking advantage of the fact that Penang is an island and we are surrounded by water. Other than that, we also build cycle lanes and are working on improving our EV infrastructure. Another interesting project that we're working on right now, together with UN Habitat, is the Penang Nature-Based Climate Adaptation Program. Essentially, it involves the use of nature-based solutions to achieve 2 objectives. Firstly, to reduce surface temperature, and secondly, to manage stormwater runoff. So we have found, actually, through empirical evidence, that areas that are greener and bluer tend to have significantly lower temperatures compared to areas which are gray and hardscaped. So this project entails a lot of greening, planting trees strategically, building rooftop gardens, pocket parks, blue-green corridors, and so on. And as far as flood mitigation is concerned, we are focusing on upstream stormwater retention, particularly for a particular project. We are creating a dual-use recreational park, which can then also serve as a stormwater retention pond during rain. There are quite a number of other projects that we're working on. in the interest of time, I won't go through all. However, I will end with this slide and talk a little bit about this CIC, or Creating Investable Cities initiative or project that we're working on together with the ADB. So essentially what we have here, we have ideas, we know what we want to achieve. We have identified goals and we have formulated plans. We have the Penang 2030 roadmap, we have the Green City Action Plan, which we work together with the ADB on. However, what we lack is perhaps one, technical expertise to a certain degree, but more importantly, secondly, the funds or financing, the money in order to implement these projects. So this CIC is important because it helps us find creative ways of increasing our revenue so that we can implement these projects. For example, through PPP, through creditworthiness, also from improving and enhancing our revenue streams, using policy instruments, improving on existing, making existing policy revenue streams more efficient, but also creating new ones, capitalizing on TODs, and also introducing land value capture policies, for example, to take advantage of the added value from the TODs. So we believe, to end, we believe that creating sustainable cities is not just about spending money, although that's important, but I think sustainable cities are also opportunities to create revenue for the state and the municipal governments. And I believe this is something that we are very keen to work on together and like to continue working together and sharing all our experiences. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johari. Please sit next to, George, yes. Thank you very much. Yes, so ADB is also very happy to work with Penang government, and there's different challenges, but then actually this is very important, intervention and also a collaboration for us. So next, I'd like to invite the Mr. Joseph Espina to speak on behalf of the CEP City. Mr. Espina is also an architect, environment planner, and a civil engineer by profession, as well as an academic who is currently serving as the city planning and development coordinator. He speaks on behalf of the city, but also with a private sector lens. Mr. Joseph, please.
Okay, thank you. A pleasant good morning to everyone. On behalf of Mayor Michael Rama of the City of Cebu, I am to present to you today on the topic, City Management Towards Carbon Neutrality. Allow me to begin with this slide as a starting point. I always emphasize on these three global phenomena which all local government units in the country are now facing. First is that climate change is the new normal. We are facing erratic weather conditions, extreme heat and drought during El Nino, high-intensity rainfall and super typhoons during La Nina, increasing sea level rise. These result to urban flooding, landslides, earthquakes, pressures on our food and water security, and the Philippines is now considered the fourth most disaster-prone country in the world. Among these conditions is the phenomenon called urbanization. Statistics show that 55% of the world's population are now living in cities. In the Philippines, that figure is more like 65% of our population, especially in highly urbanized cities like Cebu. The migrants usually end up in danger-prone areas like along banks of rivers, creeks, and the coastal areas. The burgeoning increase in population lead to more urban problems such as the lack of water, energy, and so forth, and the accompanying increase in our carbon footprint. On a more positive note, we have a third global phenomenon called the demographic window. This is a demographic window of opportunity for a country's economic growth when a majority of the population is working age, meaning in our country 16 to 65 years old. It is said that when a country reaches its demographic window, the economy usually improves, which is also why the Philippines has one of the highest GDPs in a region of now about 6% growth. Yet again, the increase in population and economic activity lead to increased greenhouse gas emissions. This slide shows the Sustainable Development Goals. 17 SDGs, our commitment to the Paris Agreement. In Cebu City, we are now in the process of updating our local climate change action plan, also aimed at decarbonization. Here we show the 4 current targets for LCCAP, which are number 11 on sustainable cities and communities, number 12 on responsible consumption and production, number 13 on climate action, and number 15 on life on land. With the support of academic institutions, we are currently in the process of preparing our inventory of greenhouse gases. On our efforts toward decarbonization, we have identified 2 streams of approaches. One is on active reduction methods, which aim to avail of more technological advanced approaches to reduce carbon emissions, while the other is on the more passive approach towards the prevention of carbon emissions. On the active reduction methods, Cebu City is going towards sustainable mobility, such as a progressive shift towards mass transit modes from a very car-centric environment, beginning with electric buses and hopefully to monorail and eventually to LRT on a Metro Cebu scale. The new BRT system is now under construction. The proposed Green Loop is a pedestrian-dominated, transit-oriented development around the urban core of Metro Cebu, which aims to apply various green initiatives. Then we have ecological and sustainable infrastructure, such as the existing solid waste to aviation fuel plant in Barangay Binalyo by a private entity. Materials recovery facilities are now being encouraged in several barangay clusters to implement a reduce, reuse, and recycle program. A third thrust is on renewable energy. We are now going towards the implementation of digitally controlled LED lights, street lights, some solar-powered at remote areas in the uplands. And at the Regional Land Use Committee, we have proposed to explore tidal current energy generation, especially at the straits between Cebu and Negros Islands, where ocean currents are really strong. The Philippines is an archipelagic country with strong tidal currents from the Pacific to the South China Sea. Japan has a new tidal current generation technology shown on the slide. This slide shows the passive approaches towards our prevention methods of decarbonization. First, through ecological and environmental sustainability, such as the provision of greenhouse gases at our watershed areas. These are compact, high production, high value crop facilities which are controlled and enclosed instead of open farming, which destroy our forest reserves. More forests tend to reduce carbon emissions. In the urban areas, the city aims to preserve our mangrove forests, and encourage bamboo plantations along the 20-meter easements of our rivers and carbon sinks. It is said that the mangroves have 3 to 4 times sequestration properties. Bamboo has 10 times those properties. On human security, we aim to pedestrianize the historic district by limiting cars, reducing vehicular lanes, widening sidewalks, and so forth, encouraging walking and cycling on the more active modes. Let me just end finally with this 2-minute video. On Cebu City and its new developments. Is there a sound? Let me end with this recent study from the New Climate Change publication. It says that current global emissions is at 40 gigatons of CO2 per year. This gives the world just 6 years to get to net zero for a 50-50 chance of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. This is quite alarming. So on behalf of Mayor Michael Rama of the City of Cebu, let me thank Yokohama and ADB for inviting us to share with you our common journey towards carbon neutrality. Thank you, and good morning to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Espina. It's really exciting, to see the CFCD's transformation and then also plan. I like the this active and passive approaches. This is more integrated approaches. So now we now like to shift our gears to an academic. So I would like to invite the Professor Yuya Shibuya from Tokyo University. Professor Shibuya will introduce us the power of digital technology as a tool to engage citizen participation. So, Professor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. I'm Yuya Shibuya from the University of Tokyo. And today, I'd like to introduce our developed, we are developing this digital twin generation system along with the citizen participation involvement. So let me quickly move here. Okay. So as you may know that the digital twins are, you can find digital twins around the world, and the digital twin is a new interface to understand and design cities in sustainable transitions. And as you can see in the pictures, Finland and Singapore, for example, there are very well-known cases. However, we feel that despite its promising possibilities include, for example, you can simulate any scenarios without any actual implementation in the real world. And despite those possibilities, most of the implementations of digital twins have been limited to, the separate cases, and those are developed independently. And most of the cases, most of the digital twins are not accessible to the public, from the public. So we see that limitation as the kind of opportunity. So we developed this platform for digital twin creation for all Japan cities. And the goal is that to scale the use of digital twins, we feel that not just urban areas or the areas that has resources and the technologies, but also like remote areas and those small places can have the digital twins if they wish. So our system, a digital twin generation system, are designed to connect with a geospatial data sharing platform we call the Geospatial Information Center. That data sharing platform stores various data sets within Japan. And because of that digital data platform, that whenever you wish to create some city's digital twin, and then you search the area's data on the platform, you can find the data, and then that data can be plotted on the digital twins. I don't go into the details of the system, but what I want to say is that again, without any detailed knowledge or without very difficult understanding of, the complicated and the understanding of the complicated situations, any cities can now actually develop the digital twins. And now I want to see some example cases. This is the Susono city in Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan. And as you can see, there are real houses, and it can actually apply. The cities can choose what kind of information they want to put. This is how many people are there around what time. For example, it says 1:57 a.m. or p.m. and it's time slot now. Time slot is going on. It shows how people's the number of people in specific areas has been changed, and this is based on actual simulation. So it's not actual data, but it's really similar to the actual people's behaviors movements. And actually, this Susono city is located close to Mount Fuji. So one of the issues the city government and the citizens are facing is that how to evacuate from the lava flow when the eruption happens. And so we now integrated this Mount Fuji eruption evacuation simulation data in the platform for this Sonocity digital twin. And then now citizens can see when the lava flow reach to the houses of their residential areas, and also. And this is another example from the Nanto city in Toyama Prefecture, and this looks really similar, but again, it can be like adjusted to the city's citizens and the city's need. And for the Nanto city's case, they want to implement the IoT sensors in the agricultural field to see the various types of the data sets, like the water level of water and temperature, precipitation, and those things. And now you can see interactively on this digital twin. So these are the example. And actually, we are now already implemented these digital twins for more than 1,000 municipalities in Japan. So if you are interested in it, you can go to this www.digitalsmartcity.japan, and then you can find desired city's digital twin. I mean, it's just platform. So as I will explain, you can add application that you want to test on the digital twins. So to wrap up my talk, I introduced this digital twin generation system, and it has possibility to actually the citizens and ordinary people can look at what kind of scenarios would impact on sustainability changes. For example, what if there is a new road, or what if there is a new buildings, or what if there is more greenery spaces, and how that kind of change affects on the, for example, carbon emission or transportation flows and those things, and without any actual implementation. So as you know, actual implementation costs a lot, but on the digital platform, it's really free. I mean, it's just freely you can change anything that you want and then see what would happen without, before the actual implementation. And then now you can access through the web browser and with the ordinary laptop. So not just the officials, but also, again, citizens can check the scenarios. And I think that has really potential to increase the citizen participation and discussion and the consensus among the multiple players. And lastly, as I quickly mentioned before, this platform allows to add any, not any, but we hope that it will be any, but right now it's not any, but you can add application that you wish. For example, in the Susono case, I showed that the lava flow simulation that is designed only for Susono City. So we hope that this online dashboard can help citizens and multiple cities to many cities to understand a sustainable transition with diverse actors. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Shibuya. Actually, in ADB, we also start exploring the potential of digital twins. It's just very beginning stage, but I think Professor's study has much more advanced in that sense. But then, this is one of the technology that we may want to further, test it and then see how it goes. Apparently, the last but not least, I'd like to invite the Mr. Yoshiyuki Yamamoto from the city of Yokohama, who will share critical factors to ensure city's transition to carbon neutrality based on Yokohama's experience. Mr. Yamamoto, please.
はい、横浜市役所の山本と申します。よろしくお願いします。皆さん英語でお話しされてましたけど、なかなか私引き出しが少なくてですね、申し訳ありません。日本語でお話しさせていただきます。今日お話しするのは横浜市役所の温暖化対策、ということになります。横浜市という一事業者として どんな事業をやって、どんな CO2 を出しているかというのを私たちの方で把握して公表しております。で、それでもってどんな次対策を打っていくかというのを考えているという部署になります。今日はですね、横浜市役所の温暖化対策、実施している温暖化対策ということについてお話ししたいと思います。はじめにですね、横浜市の、情報ということですけども、まず、一番上ですね、市の職員の数が約4万5千人おります。あと、予算額になりますけども、約3兆8000億円ということで、US ドルに直すと25億米ドルぐらいの予算規模になります。その下、施設の数、これは、市役所ですとか、スポーツセンターや図書館、小学校、様々ありますけども、約2300の施設があります。例えば皆さんが、ここにいらっしゃる、このパシフィコもですね、横浜市の施設ということで、我々はこのパシフィコ横浜で使われているエネルギーを把握しています。あと、車の数が3600台ほど。あと、LED の、ライト、例えばですね、数ですけども、38% ほど。ライトの数がですね、約150万ぐらいありまして、そのうちの38% ぐらいがLED になっていると。あと、太陽光の、設置箇所数が321箇所ということです。あと、最後ですね、温室効果ガスの排出量、後でもお話しますけども、約38万トンほど出ているということになります。右側の写真、横浜市役所の写真になります。昨日、エクスカーションで行かれた方いらっしゃると思いますけども、こちらの建物の中に我々おります。はい、では次にですね、計画、作っておりますので、その概要についてお話ししたいと思います。横浜市役所は、この横浜市域全体で排出される CO2 の約 5% を占めている、市内でも最大級の排出事業者ということになります。ちなみに、横浜市域全体の排出量は約1715万トンということになります。その 5% を横浜市役所が出しているということになります。そこで横浜市役所が実施するすべての事務、事業を対象に温室効果ガスを削減する計画というものを作っております。目標達成に向けて横浜市役所率先して取り組んでですね、この取り組み状況を広く発信して、市民や皆様の脱炭素の行動を促していくということを考えております。その下、四角で囲ったところが計画の概要になっております。計画期間が2022年度から2030年度まで、対象範囲が横浜市役所が実施するすべての事務事業。目標がですね、2013年度比で 50% 削減ということです。で、計画については今年の1月に策定をいたしました。対象とする事業の範囲になります。7つの主要事業と、あと、庁舎等ということと、カテゴリーを分けておりまして、それぞれの特性に応じた取り組みを実施しているということです。7つの事業というのが下にあります。1から7までありますけれども、まず、廃棄物の処理。一般廃棄物処理。市民が出すゴミを焼却、集めて燃やして埋め立ててという一連のプロセスがありますけれども、そこで出てくる CO2。2番目が下水処理。下水、処理場で、水をきれいにして海や川に流すわけですけれども、その一連の過程の中で出てくるもの。それから水道、それから地下鉄、バス、で教育、これは学校や図書館などになります。で、病院と。温室効果が排出の多いものを7つの主要事業として位置づけてまして、それ以外をすべて、庁舎の中に含めているということになります。で、右の円グラフがですね、その内訳になってますけども、一番多いのが廃棄物の処理になります。全体の 38% が廃棄物が出てくる。あと、20% が下水処理過程で出てくる。38万トンの、半分がですね、この廃棄物の処理と下水の処理で出てくるというのが今の内訳になっております。で、次にですね、温室効果ガスの種類になるんですけども、円グラフがあります。 緑になっているところがエネルギー起源の CO2 ということで、電気やガスを使った時に出てくる CO2。左側のオレンジになっているところが非エネルギー起源 CO2 ということで、こちらが、ゴミを燃やしたり、あるいは下水処理した時に出てくる CO2。要するにエネルギーを使わないで出てくる CO2 ということになります。で、市役所が排出する温室効果ガスのうち、58% がこのエネルギー起源の CO2 になっています。一方、42% がこの今お話した非エネルギー起源の CO2 ということになっていました。で、その右側にまたもう一つ内訳があるんですけども、エネルギー起源 CO2 のうちの、75% が電気ですね。電気を使った時に出てくる CO2 ということになりますので、58% の中の 75% ということで、全体の 43% が電気に起因するということになっています。で、こちらがですね、経年変化になっております。2021年度になりますけれども、横浜市役所から出された温室効果ガスの排出は83.8万トンということになっています。一番上の黄色いところの赤いところがなっております。基準年度が2013年度の排出量が 91.6 万トンですので、基準から 8.6% 今減っているということになっております。その下がですね、今先ほど話した、それらの主要な事業との数字になっております。で、一番右側の数字が、ターゲットとしている2030年度排出の目標値になっておりまして、一番上のトータルの排出量を、将来的に 50% まで下げようというのが計画になっています。それ以外にも部門ごとに、排出量の目標を掲げています。こちらはですね、その棒グラフで示しております。一番左側が、基準年度になっています。で、2021年度が 83.8 万トンということで、徐々にではありますけど、だんだん減りつつあると。ただ、目標が2030年度 50% ということですので、かなりハードルが高いというふうに言わざるを得ないです。本当に実現できるのかということなんですけども、なんとかやっていくしかないというのが感じです。で、次、目標達成に向けてどんなことをやっていくのかというお話になります。まずはですね、先ほども何人かの方お話しされましたけども、照明です。照明の LED、数が横浜市役所が持っている照明の数が150万もありますので、そのうちの今、4割近くというのがなっております。LED になってますけども、それをなんとか 100% していくということです。あと、公共施設のゼブですね。あと、公共施設の 50% に太陽光発電設備を入れていくと。あと、再エネの電気を調達していくと。あと、車に電気自動車や FCV、燃料電池自動車、PHV、プラグインハイブリッド自動車などと、普通のガソリン車よりも、エネルギー効率がよく CO2 排出削減に適する車を、どんどん入れていくということを考えています。あと、他にもですね、例えば、廃棄物の処理になりますけども、まず、ゴミそのものを減らしていこうという取り組みと、あと、焼却工場ではですね、ゴミを燃やした後に電気を作りますので、その電気を庁舎で使っていくということをやっています。下水道では、下水用で焼却炉に新しいものに設備を更新したりですとか、下水汚泥を燃料化するといった再利用の仕組みもやっております。水道では、効率のいいポンプを使っていくと、更新していくといったような取り組みを今、進めております。で、次に、進捗管理ということになりますけども、 今お話しした資本 CO2 の排出量ですとか、取り組みの状況については、毎年度定量的に把握しております。で、ウェブページなどを通じて公表しております。あと、その他、外部の有識者による、評価をいただいたり、様々な視点から、ご意見をいただきながら取り組みに反映していくということでやっております。左側が、写真がこれ学校の屋上になります。太陽光パネルびっしりと詰められておりますけれども、横浜市役所には、小中学校の数だけで500校以上あります。このすべてにですね、今後太陽光発電を続けていくということを考えております。右側が、これが横浜市が購入している、電気自動車、FCV、PHV ということで、最新の車、なるべくこういった車に更新して使っていくということを考えています。はい。以上がですね、横浜市役所の取り組みになります。どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Yamamoto. So, before maybe inviting the, the audience to ask some question, I mean, I took a liberty of ask some questions. This is always the privilege of being a moderator. So, maybe first I'd like to ask you a question to the, especially for the, panelist who is working with the city or city practice. One of my or maybe ADV's, the problem or concerns when we are working with a different developing member country is the, how to convey across the visions. For example, sometimes carbon neutrality or climate change vision is much longer term. You need a longer term vision. However, when it comes to the city mayor or city, they tend to speak a lot about the short-term visions. They have much more urgent problems. And how to make sure in your particular cities, to reconcile this vision. So to act on climate change always been a long-term investment, forward-looking. However, city has already been facing a lot of emerging, the problems. Maybe I'd like to invite the George and then also the Mr. Johari, and then also maybe Mr. Espina to share your, the views on this one. Thank you.
It's on?
Yeah, it's working, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that can be really challenge for all developing countries or cities. On one hand, we wish to have stronger economy, to receive foreign direct investments, to have more working places, but on the other hand, we should care of our citizens to have more livable city or more breathable city. Yeah, I think the best solution is to find the balance and to create legislative frame on the governmental level and on the city level. In our case, Georgia wants to become the member of EU, and next month we are expecting to receive status for EU membership, candidate country. Yeah. And the preparation has started long time ago, including the legislative framework to, to be more adaptive to EU legislations. Yeah, I think the strong wish of government and strong wish of cities can be enough to find these kind of solutions and to receive the legislative frame. I think that would be enough.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe Mr. Johari, from Penang experience.
Thank you, Satoshi. I think when it comes to trying to frame the whole challenge towards achieving SDGs and so on, it's always something that's really high up And perhaps trying to create a narrative that is relatable to people is not so easy. One, you will have to have the political will, but also secondly, try to do it in a way that people can relate. So for example, back in Penang, in 2009, and this is 14 years ago, Penang was the first state in Malaysia to have a no free plastic bag policy. So when you go shopping. And when we first implemented it, of course, people were very upset because people love plastic bags, especially in Penang, in Malaysia. But we made it, we crafted a narrative so that people became proud of the fact that, by doing that small, bringing your own bag, that you would be playing a small part in trying to save the world. And somehow or other, that caught on. And then, the people of Penang became really proud and they all carried their own bags and until today. So, of course, now the whole of Malaysia is essentially practicing the same policies. And also sometimes you have to think outside the box. So, for example, when we wanted to move people away from using private vehicles, so it's very car-centric. Malaysia is very car-centric. So I thought, and we did this 2 years ago, what better way than could we think of to shock the system than to say, let's make all buses free. So that's what I did. Basically spend money to subsidize the public bus system by saying all regular users get to use buses for free every day, every route. So free buses. I mean, it's not that people cannot afford the bus fare, but it's to create that shock factor to suddenly make people think, oh, why don't I try the bus? So once you start trying the bus, then you realize that actually it's comfortable, it will bring you to where you need to go, and you save. Actually, it's much cheaper than using your own cars. So that's on the public sector and sort of area. The other element is how do you get the private sector on board? This is important, but I suppose in Penang, because our industry is very mature and we've got lots of MNCs and large local companies as well that are part of the global supply chain. And so these big companies obviously have huge ESG objectives. And because the local SMEs and the local suppliers that are part of their supply chain locally, they realize then that they also have to apply ESG compliance in order to be part of that supply chain. And that sort of helps educate the private sector, especially the SME and local supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johari. So, Mr. Espina?
Yeah, on the parts of Cebu City, it is true that in our country, local elections come every 3 years. So it's quite difficult to. But I really believe that the political support to a plan is very crucial. Okay, but first a plan that is supported by government, the private sector, and of course civil society. I have always believed that planning starts with a vision from the political leaders, those elected, of course the mayors and the city council. But this should be closely followed by the technical side, okay, the planners in our case. So in Cebu, it is more difficult because we are a metropolitan area, 13 local government units. Cebu City, of course, is the largest and in the center of the Metro Cebu area, but we can dictate because whatever happens in Cebu City affects all the other LGUs in the metropolitan area. So we want to lead in this planning of the city of Cebu. In fact, now, both mayors of Mandaue City and Cebu City have signed a memorandum of agreement to cooperate because of the flooding in Mandaue City. So they have asked us to do a program. We call it Beyond Borders. Yeah. So I hope this is a first step towards the cooperation between local government units, because from flooding, we can move on to traffic. Now, I'm talking to local development planners of the Metro Cebu area, starting with the urban core of Mandaue, Lapu-Lapu, Cordova, and Alisay, of course, to talk to the local development planners, starting with a technical plan, because all of us has to be aligned. Like now, we are talking of mass transit, but it goes to north of the Metro Cebu area, to the south. So we have to involve everyone else. But we start with these urban core metropolitan cities, starting with our local development planners. I hope we are meeting now every month, actually. And I hope this group becomes more, cohesive and discuss urban issues that affect all of us. So if we can make this local development planners stronger, and of course they can present our collaboration with the respective mayors. And that is because it happened before that we had a mega Cebu grouping of mayors, but it has never prospered because every year there's an election and there's a change of mayors and there is no plan at all for a metro area. In Cebu City, we are starting with a comprehensive land use plan, which we are now doing. But, it needs we do not think only of Cebu City alone. We think of a metro-wide scale because it affects everybody else. So this is the direction that the city is going. And I think it could work, from the technical before it goes to the political.
Thank you. This is very interesting because, of course, the very high level, political vision is needed, champion is needed, and sometimes the pressure comes from even outside of the country, and then, but also, everyone mentioned about the people element, right? So you have to show, some visible planning or some visible impact to the local community, so that those vision will be also getting some support, and that's really important point. We also understand that like this event in Yokohama and the ADB and then the ADBI working is also something to bring more people or more leaders to this kind of event, so we can the convey those visions with the leaders. Maybe my next question is about this innovation part. So maybe Professor Shibuya, that those digital technology has been always, been under the spotlight, that we have to use innovation, we have to use to digitalize ourselves, to move ourselves to the, the carbon neutrality. What do you think, maybe because I'm very impressed that you have already done 1,000 Japanese cities, you're working with the government. What are your difficulties working with the government side, for example, sometimes to convey or use your technology to be used at the local level, for example? If you could share some of the your insight how these digital twins or digital technology can be used more in government or local authority. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the great question. I think that one of the most difficulty we've faced was actually what all of the panelists just discussed. Like they tend to say that they understand the importance of implementation of new technology, but that there are more important things, in front of them. So they want to prioritize that. So it's always difficult to show the potential, especially potential for long term. Although we believe that we can present the great potential for the long term, but how to emphasize that point is always difficult. Another point is that, as I quickly mentioned during the presentation, citizen participation and also local business partners, not just from the government officials, but those multiple players have multiple voices, and how to integrate that. I believe that as researchers at the university, we kind of expected to be kind of neutral among them, but we also have, we recognize that we also have the positionality, so we have to acknowledge that, but at the same time, how to kind of, I don't say moderate, but how to collaborate with all of them to achieve the shared goal is also important. So we always try to find the common goal, common public good that is served to everybody. But I'd say that's also difficult. So that is that two are the most difficulty we faced.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think it's kind of not a nice to hear, but even Japanese, so we understand that Japan is a little more advanced in terms of technologies and so on, but still when it comes to work with the local government, there are a lot of difficulties, I would imagine, to digitalize their approach and so on. So I think, this stakeholder engagement and collaboration has always been important. Maybe my question to Yamamoto-san is like this, because we have been seeing very detailed data from Yokohama. So you have already know Yokohama inside out, how much percent of the CO2 emission, greenhouse gas emission from this sector and that sector. I'm just wondering that, this would require a lot of coordination and data collection. What is Yokohama's, in a way, difficulty, to getting those data and presenting, and what are the efforts the Yokohama City has been making in terms of this maybe horizontal cross-cutting collaboration of department, to achieve this level of data. Thank you.
はい。はい。今、横浜市役所の温室効果ガスの排出量、状況をお話ししましたけども、日本の場合、法律で全国の自治体、約1700ぐらい全国自治体ありますけども、温室効果ガスの、算定を公表しなきゃいけないというのが法律で定められております。横浜市の環境省がですね、その算定に至ってのマニュアルというのを出しておりまして、基本的にそのマニュアルに載った形で温室効果ガス出しています。ただそのマニュアルには考え方とか計算の方法しか書いていなくてですね、実際にデータを一個一個集めてやっていくというのは、私たち横浜市の職員の、スタッフの仕事ということになります。お話ししましたけども、施設の数だけで2000以上、車の数だけでも3000台以上、たくさんのものを掲げておりますので、それぞれどれだけエネルギーを使っているのかというのを一個一個把握しなきゃいけないというのが非常に大変です。デジタル情報が自動的に吸い上がってくればいいんですけども、現在まだそうなっていなくてですね、一個一個手入力をしなきゃいけないという非常にローテクな問題を掲げています。おそらく全国の自治体同じようなことをやってるんじゃないかと思います。はい。当然入力ミスもあるでしょうし、期限までに入れてくれと言っても、期限まで間に合わないなんていうこともありますので、そういったものに対して、やっぱり一個一個把握していくというのは大変な作業ということになります。まあ、ただこういった地道な作業をやって、なんとか、積み上げているということになります。今後ですね、今後ですね、例えば電気の場合スマートメーターになりますので、そういった、自動的に吸い上げるような仕組みが出来上がってくればですね、より瞬時といいますか、短い間隔でより正確なデータを把握して、より皆さん計算も早く皆さんに情報をお届けすることができるんじゃないかというふうに思っております。
ありがとうございます。本当にね、いろいろお話しいただいて本当ありがたいなと思うんですけど、やっぱり実際のところ、Sorry, I was talking Japanese. So I think in reality, this is really the challenge, right? Even the city like Yokohama, they have been, doing at the manual, manually at each, the district levels. And then it's kind of nice to hear that, but also at the same time, this really shows the level of challenge that, all the city has. And then maybe digitalization is also one way of solution, the solution. But then, so this is really, thank you for sharing that. Before, sorry, I just want to I have to ask one more question about finance because we are bank. So maybe, I'm not going to pointing out any panelists, but then I also would like to maybe, hopefully, George or Mr. Johari, if you could talk a little bit about the financing part, how to attract financing. We all know that even MDBs or government budget is not enough, to achieve this carbon neutrality. And then George, you are, also involving with the Trivisi Development Fund. And, Mr. Johari have been talking about this, the investable city or creditworthiness, how to make sure that investors want to invest on that city. So that is also an important part. If you have any comments or remarks of how to attract, those private sector financing, that would be great. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think funding is always the most difficult part. I mean, it's much easier to come up with the plans than to find the money for it. So as far as Penang is concerned, we have the dynamic in Penang is that we have, in Malaysia, we have federal government and we have, of course, state government. And there is some also avenue that we can get funding and financing from the federal government on certain projects. So, for example, the LRT project that we're working on right now. So currently, it is going to be financed by the federal government, of course, working together with the state government. But then again, there are also opportunities, even for a project, an infrastructure project like the LRT, need not necessarily be 100% government funded. So, for example, we talk about PPPs, and the Prime Minister mentioned this in his budget speech last month for this particular project, where when you design an LRT alignment, you also take into account the fact that you have opportunities for TOD, and that's where private sector investment can also come in to assist with the cost of the project, whereby certain stations and certain areas could be designed to take into account the fact that private sector could be involved, and also then they can build the station, they can build the developments around the station that will then contribute, and by doing that, reduce for example, the cost of the civil infrastructure. So these are ways. Then at the same time, of course, also engaging with international institutions. So the project I mentioned earlier, the Penang Nature-Based Climate Adaptation Project, is something we're doing with UN Habitat. And so I think it's important that when we have a goal and we have objectives, that we have to frame them in a way that we can pitch it to outside investors, whether it's private sector or institutional investors. So the UN Habitat gave us $10 million actually to implement this project. And that goes a long way. And so I think we're very grateful as well for the, assistance and support that we get. So I guess we just have to find as many ways as we can to look for the money, whether it's from institutional investors, whether it's from the private sector or from the government.
Sure. Thank you very much. George, you have some comment?
No. Just a few words.
Thank you.
Yeah, everything goes perfect before it comes to the financing project.
Yes.
Yeah, that's as usual. So the main source is city budget and government, central government, and for sure international organizations. But still we had some PPP projects doing with private sector, and their share is quite small, but still we are learning how to do the job which is good for the city.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think yes, I think this part is very important. Of course, ADB has been also working a lot with the city, and then it's not only just providing finance, but then we have been working closely to make sure that this enabling environment, for the PPP or for the investor to invest to the city is very important. That's also maybe related to the governance or sometimes, anti-corruption issues. It's not only the finance, but is there any, a lot of different ways to improve the city, to be more investable, right? So that's something that we have been also focusing a lot. And then, of course, raising the internal, mobilizing the internal resources with the government, focusing on the revenue streams, important, as well as saving, a lot of cost. Sorry, so maybe I'd like to invite now the floor for a few questions. Joy, you want to, moderate the question and answer? Yes.
Yes. So the before we open the floor to questions, I would like to call on Hui. He's from Hue City, and he would like to share also their experience in city planning.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Mr. Satoshi Ishii, panelists, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hui. I'm from Department for Planning and Development in Thừa Thiên Huế Province, Vietnam. You know, Vietnam is quite a long country, and Thừa Thiên Huế is located right in the center of the country. We easy to go north and south. And as you know, we are the one of the last ancient city of Vietnam and the last kingdom of Vietnam during the 20th century and 19th centuries. Actually, we have a social economic plan, and in our social economic plan, we prepare the Green City Action Plan. We call it GCAP, and the GCAP also support from ADB. Yeah, and inside the GCAP, we have the infrastructure initiative. We have one initiative we call the infrastructure city development. And we build the city, we build transportation based on the concept of green transportation. And thanks for the ADB and thanks for the Australian government. We also have the one initiative we call the Smart City Initiative. We apply, we call the 3D model, something like professor from Tokyo show in the screen, something about the smart city, how to manage the city, visualize our master plan. This way we can create more chance for make a dialogue between the people, the private sector, and the government. We come together and do, for social development of the province. And actually, second thing, so we also would have like to have some kind of the initiative. We call the international integration. In our province, we have the Hueguaco. It's one of the company, water company. We have the good cooperation with the Water Work Bureau of Yokohama. And we have try to reduce the leaking water and to increase the assessment rate of the people to the assessed water. You know, in Hue, in our city, we can drink directly the water from the tap. It's very special in my country, and this is thanks to Yokohama City. Yesterday, if people you have the tour around the city hall, you can have the introduction about how the British guy come to Yokohama to bring the new way of water supply, and now Yokohama bring to Hue. I'm very interested in this story. And frankly speaking, when I listen to the panelists, members about the presentation, I love it so much, especially how to manage the city to go the zero carbon. And that's why I would like to request ADBI and the city of Yokohama support us some capacity building to help us to manage the city to go the zero carbon. Yeah. Last but not least, I thank you very much, and I wish for the successful conference and wish you all good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hui. Yes, the lady. Yes, please state your name and your institution. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Vida. I'm head of Special Planning Department under Public Works and Special Planning Office of Samarinda City. And beside me is our Vice Mayor, Mr. Rusmadi. And here I want to say that Samarinda has a strategic city for the new capital city of Indonesia, because as we know, Indonesia will move its capital city to our province, which is Samarinda is the capital city of the province. And we have interest with the digital technology, as Miss from University of Tokyo has explained. As we know that digital technology is part of smart city to be the smart decision based on complete data that we should have first, right? We should have the complete data first, so we can have a good technology as basis from the spatial data. So quick question regarding to the data, how long do we need to spend to have the complete data, and how much the budget to make the technology? Because we have some issue like flooding, connecting transportation, and some other like slum housing. Maybe that's all from my country and my country and my city. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sure, thank you. Maybe we will take a few questions, Joy. Maybe another one or two. I know the time is running out, so maybe we will take another one or two questions. Then, well, that question goes to Professor Shibuya. Yes.
Hello. Namaste. My name is Surendra Moonshrestha and I'm from Nepal. Sorry for my sound. First of all, I would like to thank all the presenters for a nice presentation. My question is for Georgia. Mr. George, that you said that, you have used waste reduction of energy consumption by, reducing the street lights. Can you please elaborate how could you, reduce the energy consumption by reducing the street lights in your country? Thank you.
Okay.
Last question. Anyone?
Okay. So maybe we will, ask Professor Shibuya first, and then George second. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your city, and also sharing the context. About the budget, I think we can discuss a little bit detail later. But our project objective, main project objective, is that make digital twin available for all, not for the big cities that have many resources in the budget. So our aim is try to use as many as open data or free data as possible. And also the framework was already built by us. So you don't have to build that, any really detailed technical things, but you can apply framework. And then I think the challenge when I heard about your story was that probably what data we should collect to put on the digital twins, like what and natural disasters and the poverty and those things. So I think we have to prioritize what kind of data we can put and what is the main goal to achieve with the digital twins, and then we can see how we can manage it. Because as the one of the panelists mentioned, that managing data is also sometimes very costly, not just because of money, but also people involved to manage the data. So that would be another challenge there.
Sure. Thank you. I think this data is very important. I mean, the data can drive us to the wrong direction as well. And then, this is also one of the discussion is that, governance of the data, we have been discussing because there are so many data available. And of course, we have a very sophisticated analysis running onto those data nowadays. And then we always been very fascinated to use those. But then we have to, be very, very careful to look into what data we have been using, especially those countries which ADB has been working very closely. Development can be very fast. So you have already collected one data, and then after a few years later, your data is no longer, the updated. So this may also drive your, the policy and intervention in the wrong direction as well. So I think this is a very important point. Thank you for, raising that question. George, are you okay to take that question about,
Thank you for the question. I said in my presentation that we are post-Soviet country, and that was the legacy to have that sodium bulbs. But they have a shorter lifetime, and they consume a lot of energy. And we had to somehow move to the LED lighting. Actually, in the beginning, that was really PPP project with our local productions. So the project started, we had the negotiations with them, and local producers of the LED, they offered us for some amount of some amount of LED lightings for free. And then we had a long-term contract that city would not pay all the investment at the same time, but city would pay time by time. the money was given from the economy of electricity consumption. Did I explain? Yeah. And then, and then after some time, city just bought some LED lamps and replaced. We almost finished all main streets, and now we are going to switch secondary streets on the LED lighting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. And then, Joy, can we maybe wrap up? We wrap
Yes.
up. Okay, sure. So I was asked to wrap up, which is a very difficult task always. And first of all, thank you very much for the panelists here, and then also the audience, being participating in this session. Personally, this was really interesting session for me because we have a good mixture of the panelists, and then the sharing the experiences, more advanced city, or maybe the city going to start planning those the zero carbon, the path. And then we also have a discussion about digital technology, how to utilize it. And then again, also, even in Yokohama, there are, some challenges as well that we can also learn from. So of course, if I summarize it, of course, political will is important, or engaging the local people and showing some the results is important. Bringing more the private company, and then to do that, we have to make sure that there is the enabling environment to be created within the cities. So ADB, particularly maybe not ADB with all the multilateral development bank, we have been of course financing the project, but then we have been focusing maybe more and more in the future that how to, not only building a capacity, or technical capacity of the, our counterpart and city government, but how to, how can I say, let them make money, so let them be more attractive in terms of investment so that they could be quickly graduate from the, in a way, ADB support, and then already start, attracting a lot of investment without any financial support. So, to do that, apparently ADB is, again, very happy to collaborate with Yokohama City. And then, there are a lot of different instruments. Today, we have been talking a lot about, carbon neutrality. So we didn't look at the adaptation side, but then we have a bit of touch upon a little bit about nature-based solution, land value capture. This is something that we are also, ADB is going to increase our investment or financial support in the coming years. And this is also leading to the, Yokohama City Mayor's talk this morning about this Eco Expo, in happening. So in the morning, we already had a very good discussion with the Yokohama mayors on this. ADB will continue, partner with the Yokohama City on a various agenda, and then so we will be very happy to be part of this group. So again, thank you again for all the panel members, and then thank you again for the audience participating. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our distinguished speakers and our moderator. Just a reminder, so our participants, thank you for coming here